7 questions an avoidant can't answer and why they struggle. Have you ever felt like you're talking to someone who's always keeping a piece of themselves hidden, as if no matter how close you get, there's a door they never let you open? If you've dealt with someone who has a dismissive, avoidant attachment style, you know this feeling all too well. It's not that avoidants don't feel, they feel deeply, but they struggle to express those feelings because vulnerability is foreign, even threatening to them. There are certain questions that can make an avoidant person freeze, give vague answers, or even pull away completely. Not because you're asking the wrong things, but because these questions poke at their deepest fears of intimacy, dependence, and being truly seen. In this video, we're going to explore 7 questions that avoidants simply can't answer comfortably, and I'll share why these questions hit them so hard. If you've ever wanted to understand why avoidants react the way they do, stay with me until the end of this video, because this might be the clarity you've been looking for. Question 1. How do you truly feel about me? This is perhaps the simplest yet most terrifying question you can ask an avoidant person. Why? Because feelings, especially romantic ones, require vulnerability. When you ask an avoidant how they feel about you, they might freeze, go silent, or give you a vague answer like, "You know how I feel," or "I don't know." It's not that they don't have feelings. In fact, many avoidants feel deeply, but they are so afraid of being hurt, rejected, or trapped that they'd rather keep those emotions locked away than risk exposing them. To them, admitting deep feelings feels like losing control. It's like stepping into unknown territory where they can't protect themselves anymore. So instead of answering, they deflect. This can leave you feeling like they don't care, but the truth is, they might care too much. The challenge is, avoidants were often raised in environments where expressing emotions was unsafe or ignored. So as adults, saying how they truly feel is like speaking a language they never learned. Question 2, why did you pull away? If you've ever had an avoidant partner, you know how confusing it can be when things seem to be going well, and suddenly they vanish or create distance. Asking them why they pulled away is like shining a spotlight on their biggest fear: closeness. To them, the act of pulling away isn't something they consciously plan. It's an instinctive reaction to feeling too vulnerable or too dependent on someone. When you ask them why, they often don't have the words to explain it. They might say, "I just needed space," or "I was busy," but the real answer lies deeper. Avoidants are wired to believe that too much closeness equals danger. They've learned to self-soothe and rely on themselves. So when someone gets too close, they feel a loss of control and subconsciously push that person away. What they can't easily admit is that the closer they feel to you, the more terrified they become of losing themselves or of being rejected first. This is why this question is so hard for them to answer. It forces them to confront fears they've spent a lifetime trying to avoid. Question 3, what do you need in this relationship? A secure or anxious person can usually list what they need: love, reassurance, time, connection. But when you ask an avoidant what they need, they often stumble. They might respond with, "I don't know," or they'll say something vague like, "I'm fine as long as things are good." The truth is, avoidants have spent so long suppressing their needs that they've convinced themselves they don't need much at all. Needing someone feels like weakness to them. It threatens their independence, which is the very thing they use to feel safe in relationships. This question is hard for them because it forces them to acknowledge that they do, in fact, have emotional needs like everyone else. But admitting that would mean lowering their guard. It's not that they don't have needs, they just don't want to depend on someone else to fulfill them. This is one of the main reasons avoidant relationships can feel so one-sided. You're pouring in energy, but they struggle to ask for or receive what they truly want. Question 4, where do you see us in the future? Talking about the future is like asking an avoidant to sign a contract they never agreed to. Commitment terrifies them because it feels like giving up control. When you ask an avoidant where they see the relationship going, they might respond with jokes, change the subject, or give an answer that's as vague as possible. It's not because they don't see a future with you. It's because imagining the future brings up fears of being trapped or losing their freedom. To them, even thinking about long-term plans can feel overwhelming. They'd rather keep things in the now, where they can maintain emotional distance. This question also makes them face a level of honesty they're not comfortable with. If they're unsure about what they want, they'd rather not answer than risk disappointing you. It's easier for them to stay ambiguous than to risk saying something that will require them to show real commitment. Question 5. Why can't you let me in? This is the question that hits them the hardest. Asking an avoidant why they can't open up forces them to confront their emotional walls, which were often built during childhood as a way to survive neglect, criticism, or rejection. They may not even know why they can't let people in because it has become such an automatic defense mechanism. Vulnerability to them feels unsafe, and admitting that would mean exposing their biggest insecurities. They often respond with silence or irritation because they don't have a simple answer for something that's been part of them for so long. Question 6. What scares you about love? This is a question that shines a spotlight on their deepest fears. Fear of losing control, fear of being hurt, fear of not being enough. Avoidants struggle to answer this because love is both what they want and what terrifies them most. If you ask them this, they might brush it off with something like, "I'm not scared." But the truth is that love threatens the very independence they use to feel safe. It forces them to rely on someone else emotionally, and for someone who's learned that depending on others leads to pain, that's a scary thought. This question digs into the vulnerability they spend their whole life trying to avoid. Question 7. What do you want from me? This question might seem simple, but it puts an avoidant in a tough spot. It asks them to define their expectations, desires, and emotional investment in the relationship, all things they prefer to keep undefined. Why? Because defining what they want means committing to it, and commitment feels risky. An avoidant might respond with, "I don't know," or "Why do we need to label everything?" It's not that they don't want anything from you. In fact, they may want your love, your support, and your presence. But admitting that means exposing their emotional needs, and that feels far too vulnerable for them. These 7 questions reveal the inner struggles of avoidant personalities. It's not that they don't care about you or don't have emotions, they do. But their entire way of relating to others is built on maintaining emotional control, and avoiding the pain they fear will come from intimacy. The more you try to force them to answer these questions, the more they might retreat. Instead, the key is to create an emotionally safe space where they feel free to open up. But even then, remember that healing their attachment wounds is their responsibility, not yours. Think back. Have you asked any of these questions and received silence, deflection, or frustration in return? It's not because you're unworthy or unlovable. It's because these questions hit the core of what they've been avoiding their whole life. When you understand this, you gain power. The power to choose whether this dynamic is something you want to continue engaging with, or whether you deserve someone who can meet you emotionally where you are.